Vivat, Grendel Ben. Welcome back another week to the Devil in Detail. It is, as Ben says,
our Grendel comic book reread podcast. Here we are finally at episode 12. Can you believe
right.
it?
We did it. We're finishing Black, White, and Red.
Yeah, it's sort of like a nice little chapter break.
Yeah, we've got really one story left that's from the Black, White, and Red series. We've got another short by Matt, and then we're going to tell you what we're doing next.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, what you been up to? What have you been up to this week, man?
Reading, making, listening, doing some stuff.
Oh yeah.
Been working on comic pages for the Image Grand Design project, where I'm lettering and coloring and doing different things. I just found out a really simple way to do color holds in Procreate.
Nice.
And so now I'm asking myself, how much color holds is too much color holds, right? Because like the contours of everyone's face is now like a dark, like a brown, and you know, if someone has red hair, it's like very dark red hair. So I'm going to have to, ask myself, answer some of those questions pretty soon about like, maybe you need some black in some of these contours, but it's been going pretty good.
Nice.
I got a Kayfaber had posted a haul from a website called Hamilton Books,
right,
which included a Dark Horse Gasoline Alley Sundays collection, which is like an enormous $75 book that I had shipped to my house for $19 and change.
Wow.
So what a deal. I'm just obsessed with it because of the great value and the great comics, but I'm really enjoying that.
I'm gonna have to check them out.
Yeah, eyeing some more Gasoline Alley strips on eBay, like Joe Matt style, clipped out of a paper.
Oh, that's
from,
cool.
from
You like
100
those
years
old
ago.
school?
I like them, but it's kind of an enormous waste of money.
Yeah,
it's cool. I don't know. It's cool. The coolest thing is looking at like $25 like Superman newspaper strips from like 1940, where it's like, here's a golden age thing, and this is it, and it's you can get it for super affordable. So I did that, and
nice.
then I've been listening to the Sandman Audible
that's right,
audiobook adaptation.
How is it?
It's good. I mean, it has all the same minor issues that Sandman does. The same story that's kind of like, oh god, like I don't enjoy reading this in comic, is also not
also tough in
audio. But let me say like 5 nice things about it, at least before. It is truly a like the definition of a Redux project, because Neil Gaiman does a lot of narration, and it really is like panel for panel, balloon for balloon, caption for caption. There might be some minor changes here and there, but where they have to add description for to bolster the
right.
what you visualize is interesting. And also there's just like lots of like details and background things that just like aren't present in the comic that kind of flesh out some interesting things. So I'm
cool.
enjoying it quite a bit. Yeah.
Man,
what did you do this week?
I've also been working, always doing new stuff, getting the productions ready. Wizards almost ready to ship out. I think some should be here in the next couple days. Definitely been reading a bunch of books. Craig Thompson's Ginseng Roots is really good. I don't know if you've been reading that.
How many? I haven't. That's the third one, it looks like.
Yeah, I think there's 6 out right now. I have a little stack of them over there.
Is that square bound?
Nope. Regular bound, yeah.
Oh,
but it's
cool.
just kind of small and really just cool. They also do like a really interesting use of the black, white, and red format.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
which is really cool.
Some pinks in there too. Yeah, I think I've only read Blankets. I thought it was good. Our friend Will loves Craig Thompson.
Does he?
He's a big Goodbye Chunky Rice fan.
Oh, see, I don't know too much of his other books.
That's like it's like a cartoony talking animals indie thing.
Another one of his books.
Yeah.
I've been watching a couple shows. I finished the Swamp Thing TV show that's on the DC
Oh,
Unlimited.
yeah. How was that?
It's not bad. I kind of like how he looks. The story kind of meanders at the end. I think that there was some shit going on set. I heard I think there was a PA that died or something, and it got
Oh,
shut.
Jesus.
They shut it. They took it down from 12 episodes to 10 episodes or something like that. So I think something kind of got lost in the end. It felt like it, but it's interesting, and it's cool that it was picked up by, I think, was it HBO, the new HBO, or
Oh, yeah.
CW or
HBO
something like
Max.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to develop it further, which I think is going to be cool. And I think that they're going to do something with Constantine and Swamp Thing, is what I heard. So that could
Yeah.
be
Well, it
really
seems
cool.
like the success of the Watchmen show. I don't know if did you see the Watchmen show?
It was awesome. Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. Right. So like that, there's going to be some good HBO DC shows
I think
coming.
so.
It would
I think
seem.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I started that Stargirl show, which is also on there, kind of like Justice Society of America, and
Mhm.
it's fun, man. I've been enjoying it. I watched probably 5 episodes yesterday while I was working and dug it. So I was getting into some DC shows. It was kind of like I want to cancel this DC service that I pay for, but let's give it one more month and let's check out some of these shows and see was it worth me paying for it all this time? Was it worth me? Because I'm never reading the comics on there, and I feel like I've gone months without even using it, yet I pay for it. So I wanted to check it out a little more, and I'm digging it. I think it's worth it. I might
Yeah, it
even
sounds like it's kind of winding down and going to move to HBO or
really.
to another pay model.
Yeah, I think they were really psyched about it, and I think they did some cool stuff. Like I was digging on that DC Daily for a minute, but it's just like I'm not that into DC really. I was just like psyched on the app. I mean, I was wishing Marvel would do something like that, but they had like Agent M, that guy, which I'm not a huge fan of. But
Well,
then we got Ed and Jim, I guess, and they're like the indie
sure.
guys who do it.
You have a lot more love for those companies than I do. I can really only I only have the desire to follow when people that I really enjoy are doing projects. Otherwise, it's all
Yeah.
It's like too much junk food for me.
Yeah, I feel you, which is a good segue into this week. We got 2 stories. We got what's up next. Let's hear it. Let's get it going.
Box, ready to go. Fast, maybe slow. Yeah. Vivat Grendel.
It's like the devil is my best friend. On the roads with the pen to the fork end, or till time end. Like Orion, Jupiter, my kin, bloodline private. We control the whole shit. The wolf won't beef, then we feast off the rip. Behold the devil in detail. Behold the devil in detail.
Yeah. All right, welcome back, Vivat Grendel, and we are about to dive into the last Black, White, and Red story, The Devil's Domain.
Yeah. This is by Chris Sprouse, who it's a name that I know. Wonderful, masterful style. That's all I can tell you.
Right. I mean, we've seen him on tons of books. I mean, he did a lot of work with Awesome Comics, which is Alan Moore's thing. He did Supreme, Judgment Day, Alan Moore's Awesome Universe Handbook.
ABC Comics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
And he did he did Tom Strong 1 through 19, 23 through 24, 35 through 36. Big runs on Tom Strong, Trans Metropolitan, some Action Comics runs. So I mean, he's been around. He did Wildcats Aliens for Image. He's done Black
DC
Panther.
household name.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's done a lot of great work, and this is no different. This is also great work, and also the prose by Matt Wagner. The flourishes in the way he writes it's just amazing.
Yeah, didn't Matt tell us that he was having a conversation with Chris Sprouse, who said, "I just want to draw architecture"?
Oh, I didn't remember that.
And Matt said, "Let me just do something around that."
Oh, well, okay. That's a whole nother way to look at this story.
For our benefit.
Yeah. Good.
Let's talk about the format real quick.
Okay. It's just one big image and then one powerful paragraph by Matt.
Yeah. It's like almost 3 balanced lines on every page.
Yep.
And like you said, like kind of very flourishy. When I read it, it struck me as this is probably the closest to what Hunter's writing might look like.
I was thinking the same
Might
thing.
look like it's
Right.
probably, you know, it's not necessarily it, and or it could be, but it's, you know, I think Matt sort of said to us like, well, you know, who could write that well? You know, I couldn't. You know.
Oh yeah, when we were asking him like, what's in those books?
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah. No one could ever write them. They're too
Yeah.
mystifying.
I think that's a great guess, though. I mean, this is, and perhaps it's even like Hunter's inner monologue, you know, that he's kind of flourishing these things, you know, this grandiose vision he has of himself as Grendel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt's approximation of what Hunter's writing or logs or novels might
Absolutely.
sound like.
Yeah.
Cool.
And as far as like a storyline that goes throughout it, I kind of feel like it's just like each one is kind of like a snapshot. Did you feel like there was an overarching narrative?
That's a cool question. There's, you know, it sort of acts as a primer of the Hunter Rose saga.
Kind of, yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't really start to go anywhere until the end.
Right.
Not that it not go anywhere, but you know, the last two. I mean, the third and second to last pages that show a battle with him and Argent, and then show him and Stacy.
Right.
And then everything else is, I don't want to say repetitive, but it's like, this is Grendel, this is his deal, master of the city. He is fear, he is power, dominion, all that.
Right. It just presupposes that you have all the information you need on this character. You don't need any setup or anything, that you can just jump right in each one of these situations and fill in your own context. And it's just, it gives the reader everything it needs. Sorry. It gives the reader full credit to have full knowledge of like the Grendel character, the mythos,
Sure.
the ethos.
Yeah.
Everything.
I really enjoyed the passage on some of these passages I enjoyed more than others. Some of them I found more challenging than others.
Agreed.
Some of them I did more dictionary work than others.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this first one, which I think I'll read if that's okay with you.
Let's do it. Yeah, I was kind of thinking we should just read through them.
Yeah. So we've got Grendel. We are facing south, I believe. I see the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm. In the distance, yeah.
I don't see a river. So, and I
What
live in
red
New
is
York,
that?
and I should know. Yeah. So anyway, the point was when I read this, it took me a moment to register that the river was the red.
Okay. The river runs red with the blood.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool touch. All right, so Grendel crouches seemingly 40 stories off the ground.
Right.
All right, here we go. Steely plain as dark as pitch, the rearing spines of mankind's modern totems. The crossroads piled beneath in termite patterns, hive upon hive upon hive. Above it all, the one who hunts, his will, the flinty stuff of legend. Ooh, nice. I enjoyed him talking about everyone as insects beneath him.
Right.
I feel like we had seen that before, either mentioned as a motif or just in attitude. It's very like sociopathic. I dig it. And then this last sentence, his will, the flinty stuff of legend. So fire is mentioned in this story more than once. It's like his combustible will that will burn into a legend. When I read this, it really struck me how interesting the black, white, and red stuff is, because Matt starts in 1982 and moves through time. When's this from? 2006?
I think these ones are a little bit earlier than that.
Black, white, and red, 1998. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
The red,
So
white, and black.
he's already told like the bulk of this saga and seen how it changes and how it deals with a scope of history. And it made me think, not only for this story, but for all this black, white, and red stuff when Matt's writing it in 1995, 6, 7, 8, whatever. that he's got the benefit of knowing where this is going, and so he can rebake all his other themes back into Hunter Rose to reinforce the stuff in the future.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting, as a creator, that's such a like structurally interesting thing to be able to do.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's what I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Matt is a masterful storyteller, no matter what. So
Sure.
the next page, we see him on sort of a balcony of a building that we see what maybe looks like a mob boss yelling at. My first instinct is police officer, but I really don't think that's what it is. I think it's just a guy in a hat. And again, we see the keen eye for the visuals, for the building, for the shadowing, for these elongated lines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Allow me to read. Okay,
yeah, of course. Well, my first thought was I just wanted to ask you who you thought was having that conversation in the Red Room, and we both had different kind of like interpretations. Please read.
Okay. In urban castles are hot deals struck, larcenies juggled, betrayals unveiled. The hunter transcends them, his awful blades gashing dominion and dread. His ghost walk knows no boundaries, fears no heights, has no ebb.
We've talked a lot about the Grendelin, the web slinging and the Grendelin the last few weeks, and here he's talking about it, and then we get to see it.
His awful blades gashing dominion and dread.
Yeah. There's just no acrobatic limit on what he can do.
Yeah.
Right?
None whatsoever. No place he can't access, nothing he can't see from the shadows.
Just bouncing around. My thought when I looked at the image was that maybe the guy on the left, framed standing up, might have been one of Grendel's guys. And he was just kind of like hopefully I won't have to like intercede, but like this is my guy doing his work, and I'm just kind of doing a performance review on him.
Interesting.
That was my thought.
Again, we've seen so many similar views like this, like perhaps when he's at the that short story where we see the guy with the red hair who has the tryst, and then he like sees Grendel, like this is the same kind of view there. Like, could these be, touching back on times that we've seen Grendel before? Who knows?
Well, there's so much repetition across his story.
Yeah.
And and we've talked about this, but it always kind of takes it from a different angle so that we get a sense of really how he operates and how this story goes down.
Yeah.
That it's a very simple approach. This is how I do things, and shit doesn't go too sideways because I'm always in control.
Yeah, he has the rounds. Like I'm sure of it, that he has these like rounds that he goes on where he checks in on different places, different bosses, like because he's not looking for like crimes or something. He's not like Batman who's out there trying to like hear crimes and foil them. He's
trying to make sure his crimes go down the right way.
Right. He's out here like making crimes, and I guess like I'm sure he's not above saving kids or something, but I guess maybe
he's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and crime. He knows about all the crime in his city. So if he sees some kid trying to hit some lady or something like that, he might come down and be like, all crime in this city goes through me, kid. Are you trying to deal with me, or are you gonna stop crime altogether? Because either you work for me now or you straighten up, like Hunter trying to like scare straight like a kid or something like that.
Well, it brings me back to Barry Jean, the lowlife pornographer, who he just knew where he lived, like every single person doing whatever's bad, the devil knows, he's like reverse Santa Claus,
Are you on his list?
Yeah, right.
Dude, next page, the building work is insane.
Yeah, the reflections on this one on the right, they're so cool.
And the one in the middle. Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, it looks like some of it is views on the inside, and then some of it is stuff bouncing off the glass.
For the one on the right.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
you can see the offices and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe,
And
I'm not sure.
and keeping all the lines straight for this one in the middle, I mean, and how it's like angular there. It's, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, and this is the full-on Matt Murdock acrobatic stuff.
It would make me, yeah.
This is probably the most, like, the greatest feat of acrobatics that we've seen him do. Just like leaping. He's essentially no-handed because he's holding onto the fork.
The fork's got it, like, because I was watching that Stargirl, and she has like the cosmic staff and it like flies around and she like surfs on it and it's got all this thing. His fork's got to have all these things, like got to have some magnetization so that he can like, grip onto the side of these buildings. Got to have some sort of power. Got to have like maybe even a jet in there, something that can propel him through. Like on the bottom, there's like a little thing they can, and like propel him through the air. There's got to be all types of gadgets up in that thing.
None of what you said is implausible to me.
Yeah,
we've seen a few gizmos. There's it's like a Dick Tracy radio watch. You can you can talk to it. It's got that rope that we saw last week.
Right.
It changes shape and all that stuff.
Definitely expands and contracts.
I've been thinking so much about what I think is Matt's desire to maintain mystery.
Yeah. Of which he's made abundantly clear.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, when people say, oh, it's David Lynch, it's weird, you don't get it. For me, it's sort of like the opposite of, it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be vague so it like interacts with your own curiosity.
Right. And helps you create all this stuff that Matt doesn't even need to say.
Sure.
Like 2001, the movie.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You want to read this one?
Cool. Sure. Oh, God. Do I want to read it? Sure. The hunter's dance, absolute license, his soaring prance, the contemptuous yowl that echoes midst the daunting canyons of stone, steel, and glass. In endless rebuke, I fear nothing of this dark and lonely world. I am fear.
I am fear. It feels to me like we're at temple reading these passages from like a prayer book because of kind of like the prose and the way that it's reading, like his soaring prance or like these things, That's a big part of temple, of Jewish temple, is like reading.
Yeah, and when we're there, twice a year for the last 35 years of our lives, we're both only thinking about comic books.
Oh, absolutely.
The entire time.
Oh my God, yes. If I didn't have one inside the prayer book.
Yeah, right.
Mads.
I really enjoy the last two sentences that are first person.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the dark and lonely world. That's absolutely Hunter's mindset. He was lonely. He tells Stacy he was lonely. The first time that he wasn't lonely, the world took that away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
man.
I am fear. So that really, the first person aspect is super cool. It really enforces that this is supposed to as if he himself wrote it.
Right. The only thing to fear is fear itself. And if you're fear itself, then there's nothing to fear.
Nice.
Next page.
Beautiful cathedral.
Beautiful. Is that in New York? Is it something you spot?
Yeah, sure. Why not? St. Patrick's, maybe? I don't know.
I literally just cut myself open on the pages of this book.
Oh my God. The flinty stuff of legend.
I know. Shedding blood for this podcast.
Yeah, this is cool. The red bats are
super cool.
Are fine.
You were gonna say not super cool.
They're fine.
Yeah.
They're super fine. But what is super cool is all the detail on the cathedral.
It's amazing.
Sort of the way Argent is perched up there. And also, because I really see this story as kind of like, an overview, not all the stories have Argent.
True.
Some of them are just about mob stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or about
inner monologue.
Yeah, or just about like Hunter chilling in the city or being a bastard or trying to deal with Stacy or something like that. But when Argent shows up, that's when you've got the full like schmear of
Yeah.
what this
The triangle that really fuels the Hunter Rose story.
Yeah. You want to do your best reading?
Let's do it. The hunter's insolent scent summons up gorgons, coughed out of hell to pursue, pounce, and purge. The were-thing decries its own freedom, suffers its curse in howling objection. Its aching body, the terrible tool of justice and rage.
Love this one.
Oof.
The mention, we spent so much time talking about scent
Yeah.
and the scent of Hunter and
Right.
what Argent can smell, and here it is brought up again. Really, really enjoy that. His curse, his howling objection, the physical pain that his 300-year-old body, cursed were body, is in.
Mhm.
We've seen Argent looking like he's in physical pain,
Oh,
and
yes.
there's going to be much more of it down the road.
Tons more. And then we move on to Hunter Grendel getting shot at on the top of this, like seemingly city hall type of building with a clock tower, a dome at the top.
Yeah, looks downtown. This one is all about how frustrated he is by the uselessness of the police.
Yeah.
We just saw Argent has won his great and worthy adversary, to quote Captain Hook. Here the the fucked up police, lazy, indolent, incompetent, shambling, blind, disinterested.
Adjectives, just all timed well in modern era here.
Yeah.
The
Relentless, the hunter endures. Justice, her indolent forces lapping at his heels, ever shambling, arid and blind. He tramples and flies, no escaping the mark. His fork flashes ardent through the crackles of firearms and haste. Cool.
Yeah, they can't hit him. They might as well be stormtroopers firing at Luke. You can never even touch him.
Yeah, this cop in the foreground is kind of like, I don't know Chris Sprouse that well, but I imagine that when he's not doing architectural splash pages, his figure work is just like super clean realism stuff.
And like you're right, we don't get a ton of figure work in this really at all. It's just these sprawling spreads.
Yeah.
And the next one is culminating. I would say these 2 pages are most often what we see of Hunter Rose's life, is his battle with Argent and high society parties showing off his little chickadee. Yeah. And it's perfectly the 2 things that we see.
You just said his battle with Argent, and when I looked at it also, I assumed that it was in reference to the Masonic Temple battle.
Oh, sure.
But I think that it is just a battle between the 2 of them, and the language, which I think you're about to read, is very kind of like romantic, and how they it talks about the symbiosis and how even enemies can love each other in an odd way.
Right, like that, like a "you would be nothing without me" type of thing, like Batman, Joker type of who's pushing who. Shadows writhe, the brutal ballet unwinds. Olympian gyrations free the forces of thunder and lightning. Devil eyes and burning snarl, their deafening clash. Raining tragedy, vast bloody ripples staining the ages to come. Whew. Staining the ages to come. The knowledge of Grendel, the near godlike position that this original Grendel comes to.
You could do a wonderful story in the future about an Argent cult that exists only to fuck with the Grendels.
Wow. Yeah, once you get past the Christine Spar, there's not really much mention of Argent, is there?
I don't think so. It's the vampires kind of take over.
Yeah, that's true.
after that point.
And
And I spent a lot of earlier time thinking about like, what does that mean, and like why that? And I think the answer is just because like it's a comic book. You got to kick a little ass.
Yeah.
Like that's like I think that's the answer.
Yeah. I like to not think too deeply about some things because sometimes, like you said, it's a comic book. You gotta get cranking.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, this is just these. This could almost even be like I said, like a prayer book entries with these like what's the word?
Illuminated.
Well, also like an old book. It wouldn't be an illustration. It would be called a plate.
A plate. Yeah.
So like these would be plates in like some sort of religious something, and these are the type of captions that they would have, and interspersed would be stories and midrash.
Right. And this, I mean, and all we do is midrash on this, commentary on this, on this whole thing. And I was saying before, but this fight could be the last one. It could be any random one. How many times do they encounter each other? Well, in the text so far, it's only like, it's not that many.
Right.
It's a lot of like this single images, and I think we've only seen them actually battle once so far.
And I think it's always that cat and mouse thing, like Argent just missed him, or Grendel outsmarted him again, or something like
or
that.
Just
until
reference
Stacy
to a splash
starts.
Page.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of Stacy, here's a scene we've been to many times.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hunter is looking to show his chickadee off, and it very closely shows everyone looking into the center of the image, which is where he and a red dressed Stacy.
Yeah. The framing on the windows is super cool. Them, cool. And then, there's one set of people looking at them, and then another people framed in the chandelier and all that.
The middle rectangle, I mean, it's very clearly like a comic panel, 2 on top, 3 in the middle, 2 on the bottom. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a perfect, I mean, that would be a fine splash page there itself, where the image kind of goes throughout.
Yeah. 4 in a gilded cage, the hunter tends his precious prize, parading fashion preened in peacock pride. She, the fragile chink in his veil of mastery and scorn, clipped of wing, the forlorn songbird sings, beware, oh, beware. Wow. This is cool. I wasn't sure if clipped of wing, that's Stacy. The sad songbird sings, beware, oh, beware. So to me, this is in reference to she already has the knowledge, and she's like scheming on how to get him.
While he tends his precious pride, parades her around for all to see, little does he know that which he loves so much is that of his undoing.
Yeah, she's not like a prop that he's using to be like, look, I'm not a psycho. He actually, for all of his like sociopathies, he really does care for her and want to give her a better life, and sort of keeps her in that cage and protects her, and is very limiting in the experiences that he gives her. He gives her these incredible like high society experiences, but nothing else, like a very bizarre version of helicopter parenting, it would seem.
Right. Forcing one to grow up far before they were meant to.
Sure. Just like he did.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no room for childish behavior. The next one, we see a nice big image of Chris Sprouse's Grendel. Mm-hmm. Linebacker shoulders. Really well, like the fingers on the non-forked hand. That's a hard pose. Really nice. Great cityscape. Bestrides this dark colossus, the snapping bonfire of mankind's petty dreams. His, the bright spark cast high in the firmament of doom. His, the defiant slash cross the reeking storm clouds of destiny. His, hell on earth. Signed with a little rose stamp.
I was really challenged by that passage, but I think that the image says it. You don't need to sort of over analyze it because the picture helps clarify the meaning quite well.
And it's like a dark colossus, the colossus referring to the giant statue in like Greek mythology, or that was guiding you into this. Am I right? It was like the Greek colossus was a giant statue that was on the at the shore of.
Yeah, in the movie, in the movie, it comes.
Well,
to
in the
Ray
old,
Harry has him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For sure. That. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if Colossus was in reference to him as a figure as he stands here, or to the city itself.
Oh.
Bestrides this dark Colossus. All right, that's Hunter. The snapping bonfire of mankind's petty dreams. It's like there's a lot going on in
top
there.
of the city, but
yeah.
The dark Colossus bestrides, which is him, and then the snapping bonfire of mankind's petty dreams is the city.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazing.
Fire as an imagery that destroys and cleanses and sort of like can
much like
represent
Grendel
ambition.
himself.
Yeah.
His is the brightest spark. And this is, again, very kind of like biblical prose, like his, giant work, his gleaming palace, his greatest creation.
You've brought that up 3 times already, and I find that quite interesting, especially given the T-shirt that you're wearing. The religious themes are going to come in super heavy down the road. This is probably the first time that we've seen them in sequence here. And it's interesting because this is written in 1998 with hindsight of where this is going and what's to become. And so Matt is able, this being the very end of the first block of the Hunter shorts, Matt is able to say, okay, this is what I've established down the road. How can I, again, rebake that into the initial myth of this saga, so that it has much more cohesion is brought to the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Because of that. Interesting stuff.
And also kind of able to go and show how this character's meteoric rise in life continued after death to the point of deitism, if that's the word, or becoming like a deity, becoming larger than life.
That aggression and domination is the central characteristic of society and man. It's the thing that drives everything the hardest. And here we have this person who was complete embodiment of that idea, with one exception, basically.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well done. Great story. And there's the end of the Black, White, and Red stories as we followed along in our Dark Horse Omnibus. Now, the next story that's in the omnibus here, it's a quick short called Sympathy from the Devil, which I'm not sure exactly the exact book it came from. Do you know?
Yeah, it was from a 2011 comic book legal defense fund Liberty Annual, right? They would do those anthology books.
Right. And
the theme was It Gets Better, which was like a social movement to support LGBTQ youth who were trying to find their ways.
I felt like it went about that in a very interesting way and supportive way.
Yeah, well, it's, as an anthology piece, it has to work for someone who doesn't know anything about Grendel.
True.
And so it's not really about Grendel. It reminded me of late season Sopranos with Vito.
Yeah.
And then it also reminded me of, I'm not a West Wing viewer, but there's that famous bit from the West Wing where Martin Sheen is confronted by an anti-gay lobbyist type, and he basically quotes the same scriptural stuff that isn't here. So
Oh, interesting.
anyway, this has gray tones and a little bit of red by Dave Stewart, and so it's interesting to see kind of like geometrically how he makes that work, especially also because we know that Matt is doing the Prismacolor black pencil.
Right. And Matt's art style is easy to pick out, like its time frame. And I feel like this is clearly like later Matt, if you will. Like definitely hero defined Matt,
Yeah, look at panel 2 with the kids in the background. Looks like a panel from Hero Defined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is also chronologically the story in this omnibus. This is from 2011, and the omnibus, I believe, is from 2012.
Oh, really?
And then Behold the Devil, which is the last story here, is from 2008, I think. Yeah, something like that. So it's it's the most like modern, mature style, and it's the first.
Okay.
I think is this the first? Does Matt have a black, white, and red story that he drew?
I don't think so. Like that was actually in the books itself.
That we've covered.
No, not because there's no Matt Wagner drawn story in black, white, and red.
Okay.
We did do. No, I guess not. Yeah. And
So this is the first thing that he's drawn since Devil by the Deed.
Yeah.
In 200 pages almost.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's really, I mean, from his early style to his later style too. You can really tell, and it's really interesting. These kids are calling him all these names, all these derogatory, gay names, and the kid's kind of like, the guy says, "Don't worry about those assholes," and he's like, then the kid's like, "Well, it wouldn't be so bad like if it wasn't true." Meaning, like, I am gay. They're calling me these bad names, but it's like, it's who I am, kind of
That's
thing.
a pretty big way to end the first page of the story.
Right.
Like the kid is like, it's like coming out to the stranger, and there's a lot of self-doubt and self-loathing and all that, and
you wouldn't have seen that in a story, in a comic book, even in the 90s. Just the fact that a kid knowing that he's gay, I mean, that's not a story that has been told a lot of times in comics, especially, but that was the point of this book, I guess, is raising awareness, and they do it great.
Yeah, and then on the next page, the kid says, I think I am. I think the idea is that the kid is so young that he's like reckoning with that idea, but has no idea how it's going to affect the rest of his life, because he's just, he's all of 12, it would seem.
Right. And then we find out that this guy who, again, they're not showing you these characters that you would like see as gay or something that visually say I'm gay, which is the reality. And so then we find out that this guy that helped him out is gay, and the mob has like found out. They found him giving this guy a blowjob, and then they like want to kill him for it, and they're like, we're gonna make it known or something that we don't approve of this, which I'm sure was like a real problem in this type of stuff. You couldn't be.
Sopranos season 5 A and B is this is a major thread of that season of television, and it's a lot of this is very reminiscent of that, where they see it as a betrayal, where like these guys like make oaths of loyalty to each other, that like they're going to be on a certain level and always honest about such and such, because that's the only way that they can sort of be bonded together in their like organized criminal activity. So by having a secret like that, you're kind of fucking with the family.
Yeah, they see it as
also
a real
with their
affront.
like tough guy, their conservative, old world values or whatever.
Right, exactly. But then the big man himself showed up, the boss of all bosses, he says.
Yeah, that was a name similar to, I believe, what they called Paul Castellano, who was he was a major New York City boss who was gunned down in '85, and that was sort of like the watershed moment of RICO and crime enforcement able to make a dent in like what would 70s and 80s New York City golden age mafia stuff.
Right.
So same name.
And so yeah, they're like, this is where Grendel was saying that like this is not like, has this guy stolen from us? Has he betrayed us? Has he done anything to actually like be worth killing him? And the guys are like,
It's funny that we were talking about Midrash and religious texts before, because this is a wonderful link here. Even the eye for the eye and a tooth for the tooth is Tanakh stuff.
Yeah.
And then here we've got the contrast with these guys, just throwing out slurs. He's quoting scripture, and then they're talking about fudge packing and all that stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so.
And that's where I think is this here at the bottom where he's quoting the scriptures like, then I suppose we should all refrain from eating shellfish or pork or wearing clothes that is woven from mixed fiber, and you should let your forelocks and beards grow entirely untrimmed. And so, admonishments from the same antiquated text. So he's saying that to be quoting this antiquated text for your purposes while using it to persecute someone else is no longer
I guess so. I mean, he's linking their homophobia to, oh, you must be homophobes because the Bible says it's wrong. It's it's a lot of benefit for the doubt. They could just be assholes.
Yeah, that's true. Though was the mafia, a lot of the mafia stuff was kind of built on these heavy Catholic traditions and stuff like that. So I mean, that's for sure one. So
yeah, sure. There's all those stories about when these guys get like made or sworn in, where they'll like cut their hand and like make them hold a saint card, and then like they burn the card while they hold it, and their blood gets in it and all that stuff. And,
oh my gosh, wow.
And again, like, I'm not.
There's all that type of old world stuff, like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, the Sopranos deals heavily in like how Roman Catholicism is sort of used as a justification for this stuff, and the connection between those two worlds. And there's got to be a good Catholic.
Catholic. And then here's where you said like the theme of the zine. The guy says it gets better, kid, even if it's a bit hard to tell at times. I think it's got a good message there.
Yeah, it's nice. I like. I really enjoy the way Dave Stewart does a little bit of geometric lighting with the gray tones.
Yeah, I love it. This bush behind the kid here, third to last panel.
Oh yeah, the very, very abstract.
Yeah.
And then just the way that Matt deals with the Prismacolor pencil.
So cool.
You
think that's Matt, or you think that's Dave?
I think Matt's doing the shading.
Yeah. Like on the previous page on all the pipes and stuff like that too.
Yeah, and then how like the lamps, the contrast of the pure white on the lamps is really nice. But when I look at this like modern, mature Matt Wagner style, and you look at the way the Prismacolor kind of enters and exits areas of ink, it's like mesmerizing, because it gives it such a sense of depth and volume. That's it reminds me a lot of like what Eric Powell would do when he would sort of go mixed media, and what drew me to the Goon when I was really into that book as well.
Interesting. Anyway. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get into that. Well, cool. All right, so we're gonna take a brief break from the omnibus to move into our next topic here, which obviously we've mentioned. We're going to move into Batman, Grendel, the first one. And there is this Ashcan here that came out. It's Hero Premiere number 2. So I believe that's also who published like the Madman primer like this. And so this
Hero Premiere, you said?
Yeah. And there's a red one and there's a gold one. So I think
that might be a Heroes Illustrated like
Kind of
inside
like
the poly
insert
bag. Yeah.
might be. So what we have is 15 minutes with Matt Wagner inside. It's got some of his sketches and it's got some stuff. It's kind of like a brief interview talking about concept, influences, his artistic influences, his designs, this really funny Batmobile drawing that he did. What all did you get from this, Ben?
Right now I'm Googling when Batman Faces came out.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out exactly where this happened because we do know that this interview is talking a lot about how DC originally talked to him when he was with Kamiko, and then this got pushed back because Kamiko went out of business. All the rights to Grendel and Mage were tied up with Kamiko for some years, which made Matt then leave to do his work on the Demon.
Yeah, right.
Which,
So Faces came out in '95. This is from '93, which is kind of cool. I think it spends a lot of time talking about working
this
with
is
Denny
1986. The Demon was 1986. I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
So that he was like working for Kamiko and for DC. Or maybe it was Ray.
Talks about how he had done, before things got dicey at Kamiko, that they'd been talking about doing this. And I think that he had wanted to try it with a new character who wasn't Hunter Rose.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what he says here. And then they didn't go for it. Denny O'Neil didn't go for it. And Denny O'Neil was like very helpful to him. And then it also refers to an editor named Diane Shuden, which is like, I thought I was in a parallel dimension when I read that name.
You were like, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. She sort of said, well, if you use Hunter Rose, he's like a very good foil for Batman.
Yeah, very similar, Hunter Rose and Bruce Wayne in some ways.
And there's a few other things I got out of this. He talks about like Bill Finger using like giant imagery, like
Egyptian imagery,
giant playing cards, giant pennies, all that stuff, and how they sort of took the Egyptian stuff and played into that. And then also in Faces, you'll remember there's that giant jade yin yang, which is like very along the same lines. But I have a confession to make to you, Eli, which is that though I have Batman Grendel in both trade and in prestige book, and I've looked at the pictures a lot, I've never read it.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's,
So
again, that's great fodder for the podcast. It's nice to have a fresh vision. Okay, so was this you said Batman Grendel was before Batman Faces?
Yeah, don't quote me on that, but I got.
So was this book his first Batman work?
It might be.
ZACK.
It might be.
And it was still published between Kamiko and DC.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So it's like the very, very tail end of Kamiko. I don't understand the rights stuff. I don't know if we need to get into that.
Though this one says DC Dark Horse, so it must have been
right after he took it to
and
because that trade is probably from, I don't know, 2005 or something like that.
Right, it's a bit older, yeah. So we are going to get into it. We're going to do the floppies, and we're just going to do the Hunter Rose Batman Grendel. We're obviously not going to do the Grendel Prime Batman Grendel.
Not yet.
Not yet. So then we're going to do that, and then we're going to get back into the black, white, and reds. Red, white, and blacks. Yeah,
that should be good. And we can also figure out when we're going to do Grendel Shadow, which I have read. And I thought it was fantastic.
And do we do Silverback?
Right, and that's the other question. You know when might be good for Silverback is at the very end of BW&R when they have the rooftop conversation. There's that. I think it's Michael Zulli.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Where they actually hash it out, because that'll segue really well into that.
Argent, cool.
And then the other thing is that, well, there's two things I want to say. The first is that what I took away from my Batman Shadow, from my Grendel Shadow reading, was that I am not a fan of crossovers. typically, and we've talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And the crossover that I recall that I know you love is the Mark Silvestri X-Men Star Trek crossover. And I remember like as a kid spending like $5 on it and getting it home and reading it once and being like, this is nonsense. like this affects nothing whatsoever. And there's a lot of crossovers in modern comics between every franchise you can think of. But when Matt does these Grendel crossovers, they are canonical for Grendel at least.
Yeah.
And they bring a lot to the story, and that's really interesting.
And they're characters that kind of fit into this shadowy world seamlessly. The Shadow and Batman, and I mean that's it. That's the only two crossovers that they've done.
He's a wonderful reflection for those characters.
Absolutely.
And we've talked a lot about Batman. You know, it's easy to say that Grendel and Argent are a distorted version of you know who.
Joker. Yeah. Awesome, man. So I'm excited to do that. I think we're going to come back next week with a special guest.
Oh my gosh.
We did have another person review the cast, Jason Behrens from Bird Stacking. So I'm going to send a comic out to him. Hit us up for more. We're going to try to get some more guests for Red, White, and Black. Maybe some of the creators, and we'll try to get Matt back eventually.
But if you'd like to be a guest for whatever, let us know.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite episode, a favorite issue, a Black, White, and Red story you want to talk about? Hit us up. We'd love to have you on the show.
I'm so excited for our guest next week. He's one of my favorite indie creators that I've discovered in the last 2 years or so. Really
Let's
nice
see if he'll
guy,
draw a
super
Grendel
talented.
for the album cover for next week.
That'd be cool.
Order.
Nice.
All right, sweet. Just Black, White, and Red. I want to say quickly in retrospect, I really enjoyed it, and coming back and seeing it through older eyes, newer eyes, more analytical eyes. I'm seeing a lot more stuff, and I'm loving this story that I thought I loved way more than I ever have.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier that like you see things that repeat. Take
Motifs.
your time. Yeah, and it just it paints a very full picture. There's still more Hunter Rose stories to be told, but
Absolutely.
Should they be told? That's the thing.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to say, Matt, please do white, black, and blue, whatever it is. Do another 8 issues of this.
Yeah.
But what, at a certain point, is it like, if you take away all the mystery, what's the effect of that on the reader?
Yeah.
So
never know. There is some more Hunter Rose. We'll have the Behold the Devil stuff before we even get into Christine Spar. So
we have another 15 episodes minimum
of all
of Hunter Rose.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Awesome, man. Hell yeah. Well, anything else you wanted to say this week?
That's it.
Well, I have one last thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Be excellent to each other and keep on Grendelin.
Keep on.
Keep on Grendelin.